Hello, 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 and welcome to Grandma's Wealth Wisdom, where we help you break through to a smart, stable financial future using the tried and true wisdom of the greatest generation. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you are a return visitor, welcome as well. Really excited about today's video and what we have to share with you. This video in particular is for those who call themselves entrepreneur, business owner, freelancer, independent contractor, self-employed, side hustler, future one of the above, or some other variation on this theme. If you've got another label that you put on yourself or what you do, put it in the comments below. We're collecting. What do you call yourselves? But I want you to know this, you are close to our hearts. And we're going to call you all entrepreneurs for today, but do not let that put you in a box as a tech founder. We define entrepreneur as anyone who is taking a creative approach to how they earn money, right? That they're not just a W-2 employee or only a W-2 employee and having someone else say, here's how much you make for the time that you give, that they're taking a creative approach to what that looks like for them. So if that's you, welcome. You're in the right place today. Be sure you subscribe, hit the like button, put your comments and questions in the comments of this video as well. Brandon, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to discuss today?
Well, first off, I did want to say that being an entrepreneur, business owner, freelancer, whatever you want to call it, in today's age, we are probably one or partially that nowadays, right?
Yeah, almost everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a side hustle. They have a freelance job. They're independent contractor. They're doing it on their own. All of that stuff there, that is probably you. And whether you call yourself an entrepreneur or not, that's beside the question. But I do think it's a powerful thing to think about. So that's what we're going to be talking about a lot more. We also didn't want to, like last week, put you in a box, right? We were talking last week about putting things in boxes, and that whole thing is annoying sometimes. But we wanted to be able to say, all right, what, I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, we didn't want to
For sure
put everybody into a category, but sometimes that is helpful.
Yeah.
So
if you're taking a creative approach to how you get paid to go buy groceries, pay for your housing, live life, then welcome. Today, we're going to talk about how to tell if you're just fooling around with starting and growing a business, or if you're being truly serious with creating that income.
Did like your image of, and if you look at our image of this video, you'll see a fool, right? A jester. And then you'll also see somebody who is on a surfer, right? Not fooling around, probably. They really know their stuff. So I like those two images side by side.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful. So remember, while you're here, I just want you guys to know, we want this to be interactive. So put some comments in there. We see them. So comment in there. Let us know you're here. Say, hey, this is so-and-so. I'm here. Let us know. Because we do see that there are people watching. We just don't know who they are. So
yeah,
let us know you're here and ask questions. So
for sure. We're also going to talk about what are the true signs that you're becoming a master at business. Just like you can tell someone is really good at riding that surf wave,
not me.
And not me either. The mindset and actions of someone who's set out to be one of the best in their industry. We'll talk about that. Strategies that could save you time and money on your journey. And one of my favorite things is this hidden gem that I haven't seen anywhere except for one guy who is like no longer living and part of the greatest generation. He talked about this thing, and that I think could radically change the hopes of exiting your business and what that looks like for you. Whether you plan to sell it, pass it on to the next generation of your family, or whatever your plans are, this one thing that we're going to talk about is just could like change everything there.
Yeah. And I think like part of why we want to talk about this is we've been in both sides of the thing, right? We've been fools and we've been pros, I guess you could say, maybe.
Maybe one of us.
Yeah, not me. So, like, I think that being able to know when we're foolish and know when we're not is a good thing. And you probably are both all the time.
Yep. Yep. And in particular, we're going to literally give you our 10 commandments of entrepreneurship. These are the 10 top things that we live by. They're kind of pithy sayings, very memorable. And don't worry, they're not going to be like super long or anything, and they're not going to be too heavy. But we want to like share the best wisdom that we've gathered from over a decade of working for ourselves and being creative about how we generate money. So without further,
and we're doing it in the spirit of, but isn't today like what is it? Good Friday. And Easter is coming up. So we thought, hey, let's go with the theme. What is that theme? And that's the Easter thing, whether you celebrate that or not. It's a really huge tradition. So
it's also like, Passover, Brandon.
Yeah, Passover. So talking about our 10 commandments of entrepreneurship kind of fit. So we thought we'd go with it.
Okay, so without further ado, if you're not in cubicle land or wish to leave it, if you want to be your own boss for the rest of your life, if you want to change the world through creating your own revenue generating operation, then watch the rest of this conversation. Please join us in the comments with your feedback and input. And be sure to stick around to the very end to make sure you get all the juicy nuggets that we're going to share. So Brandon,
and again, comment. Don't forget to comment. So I know.
And Brandon, first of all, can you tell our audience a little bit about why they should even listen to us around entrepreneurship? Like, what makes us feel like we can talk about this?
What makes us, what do you call that? The not pros, surfers? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Or just like why we even have a 10 commandments of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've been doing this for quite a while. We are serial entrepreneurs ourselves. We're really weird to call yourself that. But we are. We started a business from scratch, a coffee shop business, no less. We were very foolish in thinking that we could start this with ease and everything else. It was 10 years ago that we launched that. We've since, as you can tell, probably have sold that. It is still going to this day. And if you're in Chicago, it is reopened. It's called Overflow. Overflow Coffee Bar in the south side of Chicago. It was a great experience, and I loved it, and I'm glad that I'm doing this and now.
Yeah.
A lot of history there, but I believe having that history gives us some authority of saying, hey, we started a brick and mortar. Okay, we didn't even start a easy tech company, which is maybe not be easy. I don't know. We started a brick and mortar business, right? That was nuts.
And we started it with nothing, no rich uncle. We literally had student debt still, and we're in debt when we started. We went further in debt to get started. Yep. And we came out on the other side being able to sell the business, start our next business, have a baby at the same time, and share with you now all the lessons that we've learned. So to kind of give us the foundation for these 10 commandments of entrepreneurship that we want to share with you. Where do we okay, the title of today's episode is Entrepreneur Full or Master. And yesterday was April Fool's Day, right? So
That's
you kind of get the
part of the
April
foolish
Fool
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like today being Good Friday, no secret, we're Christians. We grew up in Christian households. It's part of our identity. And there's whatever you think about Jesus, he has some pretty uh, like good wisdom to share. And he tells this story about this fool who builds a house on sand, and then this wise person that builds a house on solid rock, and then the winds and storms of life come, and of course, the house built on sand just collapses. The house built on solid rock stands firm. And like this is also true for building a business. I feel like
Yep.
a foolish entrepreneur builds their business on sand, on the latest fad, or on the like not true wisdom, right? Just like little trips and ticks and anecdotes and stuff. While the wise entrepreneur builds on solid rock, time tested wisdom that has helped business owners and entrepreneurs for
Mhm.
generations, time tested products and ways to generate money, right? That have stood, that will still be around in 30 years or whatever. Also, Jesus told some really cool stories of owners who would leave money or leave their entire household with others and expect them to do well, to grow that money, to manage that household well, to run the business of the household while the owner was gone. I think there's a lot there to say, like, we don't do it all ourselves, we delegate it,
Yeah.
and keep like others on track with that. And then, of course, Jesus himself was also called a master by many, and he has that wisdom that we can still learn from today. That stood, if we're talking about time-tested wisdom, right? That's way older than grandma, right? In terms of the
Yeah.
wisdom
Yep.
that's been recorded and passed down. And so, we want to just give him a little bit of credit here that what we're sharing with you today. We could have never learned without. Like having some of that wisdom baked into our lives already. But there's also another good reminder that Brandon reminded me of, that's kind of amazing about even talking about being a fool or being a master on Good Friday.
Yeah. What I've learned is we're never actually fully masters of everything. And we are we should always be growing, continuing to grow. And when you start realizing or thinking you know it all, then that's when you're in a dangerous spot.
It's
And I
like
think
when
that,
you're the Pharisees and Sadducees, to use the biblical
yeah,
terms
there you
there.
go. And we need to make sure or try and that humility idea of being able to say, hey, I don't know everything, and that's okay, but having a team around you that helps, that is a powerful thing. But if you think that you already know it and you've arrived, then you're in a probably a bad position. And I think that that's sometimes our culture says, well, you can be independent, you don't need anybody else. And I think it's dangerous. But to realize that we're never the master, all, like, you always have somebody above you or as a teacher, you can always be learning. So
Yeah. Always have that growth mindset, have mentors and coaches, have a good support system, always continue to learn and continue to delegate and stuff like that too. Because none of us are Jesus if he. um, and none of us are Mary Poppins either, where we're practically perfect in every way.
ah, that's what you said
So
too.
let's talk about the solid foundation that entrepreneurship could be built on if we're looking to be wise entrepreneurs that are going to be masters of our craft, masters in our industry, and continue to grow. And these really have become our key foundations, things we want to pass on to our children and our grandchildren. Yes, Sean, even Jesus delegated truth. Truth. Okay.
He delegated a lot,
A
actually.
lot. He still does.
Yep,
Yep.
that's a good thing. So
Yep.
cool. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. So actually, if you like Jesus, right? If he's your man, you might think about how he lived these kind of 10 commandments. Maybe, I don't know, that we're about to go through. I didn't even think about that. Okay. So these are our 10 commandments
Or
of
writing a
entrepreneurship.
sermon. Yeah.
But as for entrepreneurs, how we can run our businesses, who knows if any of these are biblical or not? I didn't even think about that as I was creating them, just from my experience of life. So, um, number one thing that we tell people every time we are talking with a future entrepreneur or someone says, tell us your best entrepreneurial wisdom, it's this: know that you know that you know. Brandon, kick us out. Like, what does that mean to you? And maybe I'll tell a little bit of that too, the story there.
Yeah. So entrepreneurship and being a business owner in general is hard.
That should not be a surprise to anybody.
Should not be a surprise. And knowing that you know that you're called to something will help you whenever things are hard, right? If you kind of know, but you don't want to, like, then you're going to like flake out, give up really quickly. You're not going to go through the furnace or the fire, if you will, um, to see that product go through, see that business build, whatever. And it does take time to build a business and anything. And so, really knowing that you know is really important. Also, because you might think it's the best idea. Your customers, you think they're going to get it. They're not going to care as much as you do. That's in coffee. That's in what we do with finance and with everything. I think it's really important. Write this one down. Know that you know that you know, and think about that as you're going through or starting out. You know, uh, what is it? Because it's going to
Yeah.
be a challenge.
Yeah. You got to have that sense of like purpose or destiny or calling, behind what you're doing. And you have to know it deep down in you
Mhm.
that if you don't do this endeavor, that you won't become the person that you want to become, right? Or you won't make that difference in the world. The way Brandon and I came to this feeling is we did a whole experience of fasting and seeking after that. We need to know that we know that we know that if we're going to go down this risky entrepreneurial path, we need to feel that sense of calling or destiny or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Okay, number 2 here. This one has been a lot of fun to try out. Never do anything alone. As much as possible, do things with other people. My favorite example of this when we were first getting started in the coffee shop was we set up a setup shop committee rather than trying to start everything ourselves. We invited people to volunteer to help us strategize marketing approaches, help us, do some of the work that needed to be done. When we would go shopping to buy the supplies, we tried to take other people with us. It was a lot of like fun, made it a lot more fun and a lot less lonely, because entrepreneurship is a pretty lonely endeavor. And that, like, even though like people now are entrepreneurs just sitting behind a computer
Yep.
starting businesses, doesn't mean you have to do it alone, right? You can involve family. You can be part of masterminds or other kinds of groups where you actually get into deep relationships, not just like Facebook groups where you like post and comment and like and stuff, but
And never talk
like,
to them ever besides that.
right, right. And then have like mentors and coaches, right, that are with you along the way. All of those ways are how you can make it less lonely and like a lot more fun. Brandon, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think again, it's when you're thinking about from both a top up and top down, um, never doing it alone is having people around you. Like, I'm not gonna go and think I can do lawyer stuff, setting up an L3C or LLC or whatever it was. I would hire and get somebody around me that I know that can help me. Or the accountant stuff. We have a really great accountant that helps us figure that through and think through those pieces. So those are not necessarily directly related to my business, meaning they're not selling coffee at that point, but they know part of where I want to go. They have an idea. And so having those people on your team is really, really powerful. And so having a financial person, having an accountant, having a lawyer, that's what they say in all these BMI groups, right? BNI groups. So having those people, but also going down words, looking at again this idea of discipleship and Jesus. He never did anything alone. He was always showing it people or saying, "All right, I'm going to do it now. You watch now. Whatever." And at some point, if you're not doing it alone, you've now taught your manager how to do whatever you want to have done, and it's gonna make things go faster.
Yep.
So
Okay.
never do anything alone.
Yep. Sure, you might withdraw to lonely places to get some solitude, but that's a little different. Okay, number 3, know thy numbers. We had to make this one sound more like a 10 commandment type thing.
Yeah, I was writing these down. I was like, oh, thy is in here a couple times. We're
Of
very King James
course.
going.
Yeah, just for fun. You got to know your numbers. One way that I've done this is I've always done my own bookkeeping, actually, like putting things into the accounting software and reconciling our bank accounts and the transactions. That's forced me to know my numbers. But then it's been a learning curve then to then learn how to control those numbers and move them in the direction we want to, right? When we wrote our first business plan, the numbers was like the very last part we did, and only because we had to. And then to like think through, well, okay, I can see how much income's coming in. I can see how much expenses are coming out and where they're going to. But then to say, okay, I'm not just going to know this, but I'm going to control it and move things in a right direction. That's actually a big learning curve that I think needs to be talked about more. And that's how you really truly know your numbers, is you know how to change your numbers too.
Yeah. I think this is one of those pet peeves of mine that I get frustrated when people say, well, I'm not good with numbers. I'm a business owner, but I don't like that stuff. Well, that's one of the things that just because you don't like that stuff doesn't mean it goes back to number 2. Never doing anything alone, having somebody on your team or around that does know like that stuff and knows the numbers. So that way you as the owner at least can look back, or business partner or whatever can look and make sure that it is going along with what you want to accomplish. Because if you don't know the numbers, it's just kind of going through on sinking sand again.
Right.
We want to build a solid foundation. Building a solid foundation is knowing the width and everything of everything. Does that, if that makes sense? Trying to go with some analogy here.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point, though, that Brandon, that you've never done your own bookkeeping. You've just looked at the reports that I'll put out, right? And we've had conversations about things, and you've always made sure you've known where things are, even if you didn't actually do it, right? Somebody else was doing the bookkeeping and pulling the reports, but you still looked at them. We had lots of conversations about, okay, how do we change these? And I also want to give a big shout out, Sean. He said in the comments, he just did our Profit First assessment this morning. Ours was kind of interesting. First of all, congratulations. Getting that assessment done from the Profit First thing is super, super beneficial, even just taking that step. And I know the many more steps ahead are going to be beneficial to you. And I encourage you, now that you've done that, let that interestingness just sit with you for a couple of days or a week or a couple of weeks. Let it kind of sink in, let yourself brainstorm, because you now know your numbers in terms of where things are, but now you need to know your numbers in terms of what could change and how to take steps wisely to see them change. And for those who might not be familiar with the Profit First system, it's really great, developed by Mike Michalowicz. There's a good book called Profit First. If you want to get 2 chapters of that book at no cost, we have it for you for free. You just go to grandmaswealthwisdom.com/profit. And you can download 2 chapters, check it out for yourself, and find out more about what Profit First is and how it works.
I'll put it
Okay.
in the chat.
Thank you. And I'm going to go on to number 4 because this is really important to me. I'll put it up on the screen too if you're in the chat, Brandon. Number 4 is make your actions bigger than your plans. Make your actions bigger than your plans. Now, I am a planner. If you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs, I'm a really high J. I love planning. Sometimes I get so stuck in planning mode that I forget to actually do. And Brandon yells at me all the time for it. But it's what I enjoy. It's what I love. But there's also the danger there of like playing business rather than doing business, right? Where you might be tweaking your logo or playing around with your business card layout or, how your website looks, things like that. When you're not actually getting to the business, you're just playing business, right? You're planning how you're going to get leads rather than going out and just getting leads, stuff like that. And it's such a huge like trap to fall into. I just told you, I still have to keep myself out of that trap, and Brandon does a good job of it. But to actually act big, right? It's not the like go fast and break things. It's no, like have plans, but make your actions bigger than your plans. Act, like be acting more time during your week than you are planning during your week, right?
Yep. And what was I going to say here? That sometimes you want to like take action, and there's a lot of people who I would say are entrepreneurs. They want to be entrepreneurs. They're not really entrepreneurs. That meaning they are planning, which is what we're coming to in a second, but they don't actually move anything forward. They want to be they're an entrepreneur, but they're not actually moving anything along.
They always stay in research phase, product testing or market research, that kind of business planning, but you never actually see a business happen. They never actually sell anything.
And you might know some of those people. That might be you. But you, again, asking, am I a entrepreneur? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? And that's okay. Then be a entrepreneur, but don't call yourself an entrepreneur. If you want to be an entrepreneur, say I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. It's a different thing.
Yep. Absolutely. And then let's go to move on to number 5, because number 5 is just plan. So what I like to think about it, the analogy that's been helpful for me is, and I hope this is helpful for y'all too, is it's kind of like you have 2 feet, right? And if one foot is planning and the other foot is action, you walk, right? You build your business, you create something by using both feet. And it's actually like you can plan a little bit and then you can go act maybe a lot, right? You get feedback. You build a better plan because you just acted, right? And then you do better actions because you just planned. And actually, from my experience, the best plans come about in the midst of action, right? We're going to go out and just talk to a bunch of people and try to sell this, thing, right? And that's going to craft then our plan for content marketing, right? Or that's going to craft our plan for how we're going to build this new product in our business, right? Because we're out here talking to people and trying to sell the thing or whatever. Brandon, is that helpful for you? Anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think again comes down to some of this stuff that we're doing on YouTube, right? So we could plan to have a great YouTube channel and all of that. But if we don't record videos and we don't get viewers or whatever, there's no action behind the plan. We just have a great idea for a YouTube channel that's not actually making any progress. But if you don't plan, we have to think through 10 commandments of entrepreneurship, right? That's what our thing was. Yeah, you had to take some time to write it out, right? And both of us.
Yeah.
So, and I like that these kind of both, one is plan and one is make your actions bigger than your plans. Maybe it should have been 4-5 instead of 5-4, but I don't know. It's
It's
still
both
fun,
and.
right? Hey,
Yeah.
but we got it out there. We took action.
Yep. Okay, now we're going to go to some things that are more related to your money and what you do with your money, which I feel like is not talked about a lot and something we learned
The
later
hard
on
way.
that we wish we would have known sooner. Yeah. So here's number 6. Those who have the gold make the rules. Another way to say the golden rule, which you might think of as, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or as you do to others, so you do to yourself. Another interpretation of that rule, some more poking fun, is those who have the gold make the rules. But in life, you've probably seen this, right? You go into a situation, those who have the most money, they control that situation, right? Someone can outbid you on trying to buy a piece of real estate. Someone can, if you're trying to negotiate with a vendor for supplies, if they're a bigger business than you, it's harder to negotiate how much you
Yeah.
pay for those supplies you need, right? So, if anything, I wish before we would have started our business, we would have built our pile of gold a little more, right? Not literally gold, but like we would have had a bigger cushion, brought more to the table so that we could negotiate better and make more of the rules rather than be so controlled by other people's rules and what they wanted, and because they had more gold than us. Now, that in no ways do I like I wouldn't have wanted that to stop me from going after and starting the business and getting it going. And, we've learned a lot. But in terms of then how we're going to grow, right? As we grow, we're going to control more of that growth if we have the money to put towards that growth rather than using debt to go toward that growth or depending on the goodwill of others, or we'll be able to grow better when we can come to the negotiation table with some skin to put in the game, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think the other part is planning while we're young is very powerful. Whether I think I'm going to be an entrepreneur or not, if I would have thought or known about some of this stuff when I was 20, I would have probably had more gold to do what I needed to do when I was, how old when I started the business? 34 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I wish I would have known that earlier. And sometimes we feel like we're playing catch up. So whether you're 65 or
20.
45 or
Yeah.
whatever, starting now, figuring out how can I have more gold to make the rules, right? And again, it's not about idolatry and just hoarding gold, whatever. But knowing that, hey, this is the reality, that is true, right? Those who
Yeah.
have the gold make the rules. That's look at that in banking, right? That's how come they control a lot. I was just telling a client today, when you swipe your credit card at a business, already they get 2% at least, right? Just
Yeah.
from a credit card swipe, nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if a business owner is trying to pay themselves first, when you swipe a credit card, they can't. They automatically have paid the credit card company first. And
Yeah.
right.
Which
And
is
a
nuts.
smart business owner has added that to their cost, right? Raised your price so that you're paying for that first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Number 7. Now this is literally a 10 commandment from the Bible. Thou shalt not steal. But when what does this mean for entrepreneurship? Obviously, you're not going to steal, right? You're not going to steal, cheat, lie, those kind of things. But There's this really interesting way to think about stealing in our businesses that I think a lot of us probably won't immediately come up with. And the guy who that we learned this from, his name's Nelson Nash, and he called it "Don't steal the peas," and he used a grocery store analogy. And um, it I'm gonna actually use a different analogy. I'm gonna pretend like you're selling jewelry, okay? And let's say you make really beautiful jewelry and you instead of selling it, you wear it yourself. It's almost like you're stealing from your business because you're wearing your jewelry rather than selling it, and you didn't pay for that jewelry, right? You didn't literally like take out your cash or your credit card and buy it from your business, right? So it's kind of like you're stealing from your business. Um, Same if you give discounts to friends and family that love your jewelry, you know they're going to buy your jewelry no matter pretty much what it costs, and yet you give them a friends and family discount. It's like they're stealing from your business because they're a captive audience. Your business could totally charge them full price, maybe even charge them 10% above full price, and yet you give them a
Because they
discount.
love
It's
you,
like,
right?
um, it's imagine on the flip side that every captive person, whether it's yourself or a friend or a family member who's going to buy from your business, let's say you actually literally bought from the business rather than taking it or taking it at a discount. When you have a much more successful business, then wouldn't it be much easier to sell if you were planning to sell it, right?
Yeah.
Because probably your friends and family are going to keep buying from that business. You're still going to be customers. That makes it more attractive. And also, the business will be more profitable. There'll be more profit, to show that the new owners can get and those kind of things. And then also imagine if on the flip side you're a customer of that business, you're buying jewelry from it, to know that the business owner also buys jewelry from the same business, that the business owner's friends and family pay full price just like you do, if not more, right, for the same thing. That would change your experience as a customer too. You might be even more loyal to that business. So it's kind of this interesting way to just think about what it means to own a business, to use the products of that business, to be your best customer, right? It's kind of just a fun, imaginative exercise that the more you get into it, the more it makes sense, even though it seems really outlandish at first. And
Mhm.
the more you learn about how money works as well.
Can you talk more about that? What do you mean? How money works as well?
Yeah. So let's say your business is a bank. Okay. No banker would go into the bank and steal money out of the vault and take it home and use it, right? Like, they're a banker, they've got to follow all the rules. They probably deposit their money, they get this, they might, hopefully, I don't know, banks probably give the same interest on their savings accounts to all their employees too, just like you and
Yeah.
I get, right? And banks are really good businesses. They're some of the most profitable businesses in the world, and this is how they work. So if you treat your finances, your savings account, your whole life insurance policy, your brokerage funds, your 401k, if you treat it like a bank and like a banker would the funds in a bank, there can be some really fun things that happen through that kind of imaginative exercise, just like when you think about buying from your own business instead of stealing from it.
Yeah. Well, and again, having the coffee shop, I think about pastries and all the stuff that we ate. I'm like, oh man, I could have sold that for this amount. Um, and that frustrated me sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
sometimes it was like 3 days old and couldn't be sold anymore, but yeah. um,
yep.
Part of why we don't want to own a coffee shop again. Okay, so
Yep.
thou shalt not steal from your business. I hope that I'm going to let that kind of sit with people, have some fun with that. That's our most like playful 10 commandment here. Number 8, a portion of all you earn is yours to keep. Brandon, I need to drink some water. I know you want to talk about this one.
Yeah, so this one comes from an old book, and The Richest Man in Babylon. And that was one that I think is really um, talked about a lot, but yet we forget about it. And I don't think it's just all you earn is yours to keep putting it into a 401k, but putting that money aside for you for future use, right? I think that's important. So, again, the Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. Reason we called that Grandma's Wealth Wisdom is they were savers, not speculators, and so putting aside a portion of what we earn aside for future us for later on, whether it's in a month or 2 months or years from now, putting that aside for later use is important. So,
Yeah,
a
and
portion of what you earn is yours to keep.
yeah. And so the keep is a very critical word there. If you want to dig into that more, last Friday on our podcast, Grandma's Wealth Wisdom podcast, we dug into what does it mean to actually keep your money, and how that works. But also, if you follow the profit first system, right? You take
Yep.
your profit first. It goes into your profit account every quarter. You take your quarterly profit distribution, and you're supposed to use that for something fun. Um, and then there's also your owner's compensation, right? Or your owner's draw from the business as well. That comes second after profit. And a portion, you get that regularly as well as like a salary. And we totally keep a portion of our salary, right? And it's kept, meant to never be spent, right? And it's a portion of that. Whereas like the profit, I mean, we're following the rules that Mike McCallowett sets out. That's for fun. We aren't really keeping a portion of that. We're spending it at, maybe some of it set aside for a vacation post COVID that we really really want to go on, and we keep looking forward to it and seeing some of that pile up that we're like, it's going to be a nice vacation, right? But yeah, so in terms of, if you want to know like where does that portion come from, it comes from the salary side of the profit first system. And so yeah, that number 8 there. Ready for number 9?
Number 9. I feel like we're doing David Letterman here. Know thy why. That's
Yeah.
another going all King James on us.
But it's also Simon Sinek in having the why behind why it is you're doing your thing. It actually kind of ties in with number 1, where you have to know that this is something you're supposed to do, but you also need to know why you're doing it and what's the bigger purpose. What's the change you want to see in the world, even if it's a change for your family or for your community, right? Or maybe for the whole world, right? Our former business is called Overflow. The whole idea was the changes happening within your inner circle can overflow and impact people, and positive things happening, in small places can make positive things happen all across the globe, and all kinds of positive things happening across the globe can impact you and your close friends and family. And this is really what it gets to with knowing your why, is what is that positive difference you want to make that's not just about you, but about people you love and care about.
And I think, like, for us, knowing our why has led, in the coffee years, it was ethical economics and community building. And what we do here is actually the same thing. And we know that because it came from within us. And we knew our why behind it. So, and it's really interesting. Ethical economics, with the way we do infinite banking and banking yourself, and community building, right? We talk to people all over the place, except it's not hyper local. It's all over the United States now, which is pretty amazing. So knowing your why, it might change with the business, but your why might be core to you.
Yep. And then drum roll, please. Number 10. Here we go. You are more than your why. I feel like sometimes we need a big reminder about this. You are more than your why. You're a human being, not a human doing. You're you, right? Like I'm Amanda. I'm not just an entrepreneur. I'm not just, a business owner. I'm not just the CEO and president of Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. And same with Brandon, right? We gave ourselves titles recently. We're both CEO and president, just so, and if in case anybody is wondering. But you have to know like you're more than your wife. In a little over an hour, Brandon and I are going to have date night, right? And it's just our time to be ourselves and think and dream and emote outside of business, right? Actually, that's the only rule of date night is we can't talk about business after
Which is
5
really
p.m.
hard.
Fridays for the
Very
rest of the evening, right? We talk about business all the time. And that's just a reminder that we are more than our business, right? We are more than the positive difference we want to see in the world. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to, have that happening for us as well. And it's beyond just the date night. There's other things we do too, but that's my funnest example because I know how much that's meant for our marriage. And I think for other couples, it could be a big difference too. So I'd love to use that as an example. Brandon, what do you have to say about number 10 here?
I think it's, again, looking at oftentimes we want to get our validation from our business, from everything that we put in out there, like, the Facebook world and all of that. And sometimes it's not that. We see people have really successful businesses and failed marriages, or they're really successful in one side and they commit suicide. I don't know. And that's something of knowing that you're more important than whatever that is. If the business fails, right? Our business was, could have failed, right? Knowing that it's more important than us, we're more important than even the business. And if you don't know that, you don't value yourself. That's part of the profit first, is valuing yourself. You're going to be
Yeah.
run over, right?
Yeah. And that's actually one of the big things about the quarterly profit distributions is that you can't spend them on your why, right? Like you can't put them
That's
back
hard to
into the
do too.
business,
I'm like, oh, I want to
right?
for this.
Yeah, I'm even like, I know this nonprofit I really want to give the money to. And I'm like, no, it has to be something for me to bring, that's going to bring me, my family joy, right? Things like a backyard fire pit or a vacation, right? A couple examples of us recently. And yeah, I do love when we get to get a salary bump because that means I get to give more to charity. And, that does bring me joy. But
Yep.
I need those reminders that I'm more than just my business, that I'm more than just, the positive difference I want to see in the world.
Yep. So
Yep.
what would you add, audience, to these 10 commandments? I know Amanda might have 11 or 12 or 15, but what would you add to this? If you're here now, I know there's a couple of us here. Put that in the comments. I'd love to hear. Did this make sense to you? Was this like, oh, I don't know, this is nuts? Yeah, tell us. Or if you're like, man, I totally disagree on number 7. I'm totally stealing from my business. Hey, that's all right too. Maybe. Future you might get mad, but whatever. So put it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, we're going to be doing this Fridays, every Friday at 3 p.m.
Most Fridays.
Most Fridays. Mark your calendar. And we'd love to have you. If you have something you want us to talk about, or if you want to be a part of the conversation, let us know, because we would love to hear it.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, there you go. Sean said, this is nuts. Of course he would say that. Yeah. Yeah, we are nuts.
Yeah, now you got to put up the other one. He said, just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Sean, for being there. Hopefully, this helped you step into the Easter season as you're an entrepreneur with your new 10 commandments, I guess, that you have your 10 commandments.
No, don't replace the old ones.
Yeah.
And remember the greatest commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and mind and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I really don't want to be salesy or anything here at the end. But I do want to extend an invitation to you. We love YouTube, right? We love having people watch and engage in things. But even more than that, we love talking to people on the phone and on Zoom and hearing their stories, hearing how we might help them. Maybe there's one of these things we talked about today that you're like, I don't know how to do that or how to get better at that. Or I think I know, but I want to hear from somebody else what that looks like. Or maybe you're like, I'm about to give up. I need some new hope around money. Or I need some new hope around this entrepreneurial endeavor. I need to remember the whole knowing that I know or whatever. We would love to pour some hope into you by talking with you on the phone or a Zoom chat or something like that. Yeah. And that would just bring us tons of joy and help us feel really good, even if we never actually move beyond that, right? We just have a nice, fun conversation. So the way that you do that is you go to grandmaswealthwisdom.com, you click request a meeting, or Brandon's going to put grandmaswealthwisdom.com/call in the description. So you can click that, or the comments, so you can click that link there and just get on our calendar in the next week or two. We'd love to just think about, what does it mean to have hope? Oh, and Sean asked, what is the hidden gem about regarding exiting the business? So that is that whole number 7. Don't thou shalt not steal. If you're thinking about selling a business, to have that built-in customer base of you, friends and family, people that you know are going to buy, that aren't getting discounts, that are paying full price, if not full price, and then some. Do you think you could sell the business a lot easier that way? Right? So that's just a fun question to ask and to think about there, that, and think about it this way. If all your competition is stealing from the business, if they're eating the pastries and drinking the lattes, or, wearing the jewelry without paying for it, who's going to have a better business? You or them?
Yeah. Lil said, financial fitness as important as physical fitness. I 100%. Think that is so true. And I learned the hard way from the physical fitness side of things, where, again, having staff problems and all of that, I went to the hospital for high blood pressure, and it was almost downhill. It was pretty bad. And I've learned that physical fitness and financial fitness and the emotional fitness are all interconnected. And so to know that those are interconnected and being able to separate those a little bit, knowing that they're interconnected, but separating them is very key. And having that time to focus on the money, right? Focus on the health. It's very big. What did he say?
Yeah, Sean says, I'm in shape. Round is a shape.
I know. Yeah. I that's one of the things one of my things for after Easter is getting back into the gym, knowing that fitness was very, very, very important to me. But then COVID happened, and
can I tell them about our challenge that wrapped up today?
Amanda made
I won. We started January 1st. We started kind of a Biggest Loser challenge. Who could lose the most weight by April? And I totally won. Brandon owes me $20. It's going to move from his profit distribution part to my profit distribution part. Because I won. But yes, it's and I want to tell a fun joke to cap us off for the day. Does that sound good? Brandon
Oh, sure,
never
sure.
laughs at my joke, and he laughed at this joke. You ready for it?
Oh, no, these are cheesy jokes. Thanks,
Yep.
Lil and Sean, for being here.
Yeah.
Share it with your entrepreneur friends. We'll be doing these regularly.
Yeah. Okay, here's the joke. What did the green grape say to the purple grape? Breathe, grape, breathe.
I don't know. I think it was still and
That's a
cheesy.
great joke.
Yeah.
Well,
So
find some time, everyone, to breathe this weekend and throughout the week. And we'll look forward to hopefully chatting with you again next Friday. Same
yeah,
time, same
enjoy
place.
your Sundays.
Peace.
Bye bye.